Good morning, everyone. My name is Janis from TrulyYourVA LLC and the podcast host of Two Sisters, Stories That Inspire Us, and Truly Your VA. Today is Wednesday, July 20th. Whoops, almost forgot the date. And I'm very excited to be here this morning on the Wisdom app, as I am also excuse me, I am also recording to the cloud, and this will be uploaded to my podcast platform, Truly Your VA. How is it and what is happening in your world today? You know, today is in the Northeast is going to be very, very hot. Yes, I am having a bad hair day, whatever, right? Show up authentically. I love to show up authentically myself and just have these amazing conversations with people from all over the world. I just did an amazing podcast on Two Sisters and in the process of uploading that. And I have actually, excuse me, two podcasts today with the stories podcast at 2:30. I am recording with Lindsay Dunlap, and at 7:30 this evening, the first stories at night with Emily Hart. So go to if you're available, please feel free to watch us live as I am waiting for people to come on board on Wisdom. And this is actually my only second time recording on different platforms at the same time. So I'm kind of getting new to all of this. And as I'm kind of fiddling with the different buttons here. This morning on the morning brief, I was going to chat about starting a podcast. Obviously, I love to podcast. But when I was doing the sign on with the morning brief, I decided that I wanted to chat about what is happening in our world, but in a positive way. So I will share with everyone, of course, it being July 20th, 2022, is exactly 1 year ago today at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I've often chatted about this. I found out about my son, Ryan Scott, who suffered a life-threatening injury. He had a stroke and collapsed. He was in the Whole Foods, and of course, they have a concrete floor. So when he collapsed, he suffered a full skull fracture. He started having seizures. He stopped breathing and they lost his pulse momentarily. And it has been 1 year since I made that trip down to Philly. I don't even remember what I packed that day, and that's irrelevant. And as I was sharing with our guest on the Two Sisters podcast this morning, for a year, my sleep has really been off, and I found that I was living in fear of receiving another message at night. And I will just tell you, this past year, obviously a shit show, right? Not just for me, but for others as well. And that's why I really wanted to kind of switch things around and share with you what's going on in my world and how that has impacted me. And what I realized was that for the past year, I truly have been living in fear of getting another message. And I don't want to say that the foundation of that fear was out of an even greater fear. And I guess in some respects, it certainly was. But what I learned from that is that I was getting messages. My son has been was hospitalized 8 times within the last 11 months. So before we entered into July, as of mid-June, he was hospitalized 8 times within the last 11 months. It's getting my numbers mixed up there. So what does that do with your sleep? What does that do with your mindset? How does that affect how you do business? I really could cover so many topics on the subject, and I will share with you. I feel blessed and grateful. Again, I wanted to say, Ryan's doing okay. We are so blessed and grateful that his condition is getting so much better. And, as a mom, as a parent, that's all I want, is for my son to live a happy and healthy life. Has it affected certain things? Yes, it has, but it's also made me look at how I do things in such a very different way. In the moment that Ryan had his accident, which was actually on Monday, July 19th, 2021, at 1:00 in the afternoon, I go back to where I was in time. Now, again, we don't know what we don't know. And I obviously didn't find out until 2 a.m. the next morning. But I feel blessed and grateful as I look back on this past year and all the events that have transpired that added that fear. Not only has my son grown and thrived and continues to get better, but I have as well. And I wasn't recognizing that. And it wasn't until on one of my many trips to Philly, when I was leaving to come back to Connecticut, that my son said to me, Mama, you got to continue to, do your thing. You love being creative. You love helping your clients. It was something to that effect. And that conversation really affected me in such a way that was amazing. And it was on that trip home that I realized, and thank goodness I have satellite radio in my car, because the drive is about 3.5 to 4 hours. As I was going over the George Washington Bridge, I'm in that line of stations where it's all the news stations. And I'm like, oh my God, let's face it, the news these days kind of sucks. And I thought to myself, I just want to hear a story that inspires me. And lo and behold, it hit me like a thunderbolt. I went back to what my son had said to me before I left. And I knew what I had to do. And that's how stories that inspire us, that podcast was born. It has been an amazing journey. I've met so many amazing people from around the world on this podcast, as well as my other 2 podcasts. And it just goes to show you that when adversity strikes, when things happen that are out of our control, when we go through what we go through with a sense of, I have so many thoughts about this topic, with a sense of what is going to happen from here? How do we get through this? And as I look back at that, I'm now starting to see the many blessings that have happened since I received that text message at 2 a.m. about my son. He's doing so much better. My business is growing organically. I'm able to travel to be with him when he has certain appointments where he needs an advocate with him. There are so many blessings. So many that, I continue to, I'm so grateful. When I say that I'm blessed and grateful, like I'm saying that from the heart. I'm saying that from my soul. And I am blessed and grateful. So I want to share with you, when you go through whatever, and we've all been through tragic things, I'm sure. I'm no different. Take a moment and look what's happening around you. Take a moment to look at the many blessings that maybe were in disguise at the time that you didn't realize it. And fast forward a year later, this time last year, I was making that journey to Philly on the train. And I remember thinking so many thoughts. I couldn't get to Philly fast enough. But again, through that tragedy came so many blessings. And that's why I want to share with you, focus on those blessings. Focus on those good things that have happened, that have transpired. I see I have some listeners on, and if you would like to come up and share maybe a story that you've been through, maybe a tragedy that you've been through, that you've come out at the other end, and perhaps you want to be in that area where you want to share it in such a way which has meaning to you. And honestly, that's how stories that inspired us, as I said at the beginning, was born. It was born out of that tragedy, for me as Ryan's mom, to give back to others that were so gracious and really held me up during a time that was extremely difficult. I had family in Philadelphia that lived not far from my son, Monica and Richard, and their children, who are also my cousins. And my gosh, they took me in. They just, all the blessings, my family, my sisters, my siblings, my brothers, my friends. So today's about sharing our blessings, I guess. It's about me being real, authentic. Of course, we can always chat about business. And if someone wants to come up and chat about their business, like, what is one blessing, maybe through the past 2 years, with the start of the pandemic, and your world was turned upside down. How did you get through that? Let's share these blessings together. I see I have 4 listeners on, so I want to again encourage you to come up and share your story. Would love to have you on as a guest. And just to let everyone know, I am also recording to the cloud at the moment on video, and this will be uploaded to my TrulyYourVA podcast. So come up and let's share what's going on in your world. This is the morning brief. I don't know how I came up with that name. Like things pop into my head and I write them down. I have this whole list of things that pop into my head. Not sure what I'm going to do with all of them, but you know, there've been some amazing things that have happened from that list. And again, I feel blessed and grateful. Today, as I mentioned at the start of my chat, I already did a podcast with the Two Sisters podcast. I'm on Wisdom, obviously, right now. And I have 2 more podcasts to do this afternoon. Stories That Inspire Us is hosting. Can't wait to have her on, Lindsay Dunlap. And then at 7:30 this evening, I am having Emily Hart on. This is the first Stories at Night, and Emily is a prior guest. This will be her second appearance on the podcast. Excuse me. Yes, I love to podcast. I'm just going to take a quick sip here. And that's a blessing because I've met many people from around the world. I've grown my VA business organically. My podcast manager, you know, I just love doing all that. What is something that you love to do? Come on, listeners. We have 5 listeners on right now. Would love, we have a guest coming up. Would love to share, just have that chat. Like, what is going on in your world? What is your morning brief? And let me hit the button here. And waiting for her to join us. Hey.
Good morning, Janet.
Hey, good morning, Julie. How are you today?
I'm relaxing. And guess what I'm doing?
What are you doing?
I'm talking to you.
Yes, I was just going to say, yep. Yes, you sure are chatting with me. So Julie, what in your morning brief or in your neck of the world, and I do detect an amazing accent that I am familiar with. What is happening in your world today? What would you like to share with us?
We've just been through a heat wave. And today it is cooler and I'm enjoying the breeze as I sit on my daughter's bed. She's gone to Disneyland Paris with my granddaughter who's 7.
Aww.
And I am in her house just having a little rest for a week before I start cycling along the Beltane line again.
Whoa.
On a bicycle with my lovely partner Brad. So we're really resting, recuperating, just enjoying the sea because we're close to the sea in Looe, in Cornwall, in England. And yeah, we are just unwinding from the experience of bereavement.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Recently.
I'm sorry to hear that. And
That's all right.
That's a tough thing to go through.
It's a cycle. To me, I'm grieving the loss of physicality, but not the loss of spirituality, because I believe that we are all from the same place. We all are connected to our ancestors, to the people we live with now, and I can just enjoy all of the lovely things that this wonderful lady has shown me about life.
That is
I've had a rough time, and this woman come along and gave me so much love.
And that's amazing. And in the progress of being in that cycle, you've gone back to how this person has had such an amazing effect on your life. Yeah. And seeing the blessings, you know, it is a cycle, you know. I remember my dad saying to me shortly before he passed, and he often said this, and gosh, it's coming up on 2 years since he passed in September. And he would often say there are 2 things that are certain when we are born: taxes and death.
Yeah, she would have said the same. She would have said the same. But she was just so joyful about living.
Wow.
She introduced me to the joy of just being. What a gift.
Oh my
What a gift
gosh.
to bestow on us, really.
That's absolutely so true. And, you know, again, I'm going back to my dad, and I was so blessed that my husband and I had, my dad moved from Florida and I live in Connecticut, and he moved in with us because, you know, he was getting up there in age. He was about a month and a half short of his 94th birthday.
Wow.
And he wanted to be home in Connecticut when his time arrived. And it was just those 2 years with my dad, it was such an amazing experience to have him here, to take care of him, cooking for him, caring for him, you know, sharing the stories when we were kids. And my parents had 6 children, so a lot of great stories. Of course, we all had, you know, different recollections of some stories, for sure.
Absolutely, you do. Yeah. Well, our own perceptions of the same story. Yeah.
Right. And probably one of the last conversations that I did have with him, I remember him holding my hand and he said, Janis Regina. Now, when your parent says your first and your middle name, you kind of get a little worried.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy, now what did I do? You know, we always feel like you're guilty of something. And he said, always be true to yourself. Truly, you were meant to do more. And that's where Truly Your VA, the name for my umbrella, you know, my LLC, blessed and grateful, just amazing. And Julie, I want to thank you so much for coming up and sharing. And here she is again. Let me click that button. All right, why isn't this working for me? All right, there we go. Here we go. And
that blessed and grateful. I'll remember that. That's the tip that I'm going to get from you today, Janis.
yes, and yes,
I think that every time you meet or talk to somebody, there is something there for you. There's a little gift. And that was mine from you today.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is beautiful. You know, somebody had asked me, it was a business related question, like, why are you giving out so much information? Well, why not? I mean,
yeah,
yes, there is an exchange of energy. Yes, if you're going to work with me on a full-time basis, you know, I have different packages and whatnot. But if I have the opportunity to, what's more important to me is making that connection.
Yeah.
And
that's the biggest thing ever. Before anyone can gain the best from you, they need to know what you are about. Mm-hmm. That's why you give the information, because it's a way of somebody connecting with you. And then from that point, it grows. They go to you then and spend more time with you, and there's an exchange, which is beautiful because you will grow from that, and so will they.
It is so
that's what it's about.
Yeah. And it is so true. And as I was, you know, sharing my story about my son this past year, you know, I really, speaking business, you know, I really have niched down my business because it made me look at everything so differently. And I went back to the conversations I had with my dad, and then things started to make more sense to me. And that is the blessing that I'm so grateful for, that has come out of my son's tragedy. And I have to look at it in a way that his tragedy didn't happen to me, but as his mom, I obviously was involved with it. And I have to go back on my faith that I was meant to do something with his tragedy, and which was why I started my third podcast, Stories That Inspire Us. I'm always talking about podcasting, but it really, I think, is so relatable to, you know, I want to show that okay, I had a crappy year. I get it, but I'm thriving. And as a result of everything, being blessed and grateful, being able to share with others the knowledge that I have, I love sharing. I had a gal on my stories podcast yesterday, and she'll often, send me messages. Hey, do you have a couple minutes to help me with this? Like, yeah, sure. This is the time I can do it, whatever the conversation may be. That's what it's all about for me, Julie.
But just by being there, you
Mhm.
see, through your own experiences,
Yes.
you are putting out there so that people can connect with you.
Yes.
And I mean, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than seeing somebody or talking to somebody, connecting with somebody who has been through an experience that isn't conducive of happiness, is it? But
right.
that they have shared it so that they can give strength to other people. It's like, it's the old ultimate, it's leading from behind, isn't it? It's like sharing your experience. It will give you strength, and it will give others strength as well that are experiencing similar in whatever way. So just by being there and telling your story is an amazing thing. It's amazing for you, and it's amazing for us as well.
Well, thank you. And I do believe in the art of telling a story. Now, my story may not resonate with some, and that's okay. I have a lot of stories, like, the first podcast, Two Sisters podcast, where my sister and I co-host with my sister, and we share our love of wellness through fitness and nutrition. And I'm from the 100-pound club, meaning I've lost, I think it's 142 pounds. Well, whatever it is, I lost a lot of weight. But to me, it was not about the weight that I lost. It was the life that I gained, which meant more to me. And I think too, my weight loss story, I always say that there is a story behind the story. I didn't just wake up one day and I was, I'm going to be very raw and real here. And I've written about it, so it's all out there. I have, excuse me, I have a commercial grade kickboxing bag in my office. I work out every day. Well, actually, I just scaled that back to, instead of 7 days a week, I'm doing 5 days a week. But anyways, my kickboxing bag weighs 272 pounds. I was a couple pounds more than that, the weight of my kickboxing bag. And I honestly think that that's why I gravitated toward kickboxing. Plus, obviously I got into the kickboxing as I invested in a commercial grade bag, but I love doing something that correlates with my story. And somebody's story may not be relatable to kickboxing, but maybe it's relatable in a way where, geez, that might apply, to what I'm doing or what I am going through. And my weight loss journey, I was at the point where I was not healthy. Like, I was headed toward diabetes and all that other stuff, and I've avoided it thus far. Now, it doesn't mean that sometime in my lifetime that I may go down that route, meaning, both of my parents had adult onset diabetes and all that kind of stuff. But again, that was another story where it made me realize that, in order for me to be at my best, in order for me to share what I'm passionate about, I think people want to relate to someone's story in a way that that honors their journey. So those listening today, those, that are on live right now on Wisdom, those who may listen to this podcast, which I will be uploading to my Truly Your VA podcast website. Maybe if you took just a little bit, maybe if a little something resonated, that's my gift to why I like to share. And also, excuse me, the reason why I am recording myself is, and people may think this is kind of funny, I kind of laugh at myself. You have to laugh at yourself every now and then, but there's a little bit of fear of me going live by myself. There is, I'm not going to lie, but I have so much information to share. I even went as far as, okay, I need to get, I'm very detail oriented. I'm also a creative project manager. So everything I do has to have a purpose. So for instance, I wrote my notes, okay, starting a podcast. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to chat about it. And as I'm going on live, I'm right. What came to me was, what is happening in your world? Because what is happening in our world, not necessarily the world as we know it, but where we are today in this space, wherever you are, is happening with you, really dictates, how we go forward today, how we get things done, how we tackle those different tasks. And speaking of attacking different tasks, yes, people think I'm crazy that I host 3 podcasts, and I have a business with my sister, and I of course have my own business. I could not do what I do if I didn't have certain organization things in place. I often talk about different apps or things that I use to help keep me very on task of what I'm doing, especially with running and managing 3 podcasts myself and supporting my clients. So one of my organization tools is Trello. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with Trello or has used it. But I love Trello. It keeps me, I have things set up there in such a way, there's not a chance I can miss something. But let me just say with digital technology, I know we're kind of segue over into business topics, and that's okay, because this is part of what is happening in my world or in your world. You have to write things down. Your digital, what you're doing digitally needs to be backed up by paper. So whether it's that you're using a notebook, pen to paper, whatever works for you, just always have that backup. So important. The power goes out. Maybe you won't be able to get on your computer. Well, obviously you won't be able to get on your computer, but you may be able to get on your computer if you have a generator, but your internet service may be down. So, a lot of times we can plan for that. A lot of times we cannot. So it's like, let's take the inevitable out of the equation and make sure that our digital calendars, that we have everything written down. And, I make a task list every day, and it helps keep me on task. It's on my computer digitally, it's on Trello, and I have it written down on my calendar along with my daily task list. So I see that we have some more listeners on, and I want to welcome everyone to the Morning Brief and just introduce myself again. My name is Janis, and I am a podcast manager, a creative project assistant, and I guess that's a fancy name for being a virtual assistant. And I am the owner of TrulyYourVA LLC. And I love being creative. Okay, so that's the next question out there. Do we have any creatives in the audience? What do you love to do? Maybe you want to share what is your favorite app. I love Trello. I also use Evernote, by the way. Love Evernote. I've used that, gosh, for about, I think it was just a couple months old when I first started using it. So I've been with them for quite a while. And I also use Dropbox, but I have to say, excuse me, if you were to ask me, my favorite is Trello. So this is the morning brief. Originally, I was going to chat about just starting a podcast, but we today are talking about what is happening in your world. I had an amazing guest up who so graciously came to the stage twice, and I want to thank her, Julie, if you're still out there. And what an amazing conversation. So I want to invite you to come up and chat about what's happening in your world today. Or if you'd like to share what is your favorite app. And by the way, I want to say that I just updated the Wisdom app. I was chatting with someone on here a couple weeks ago, and he said that he would message me through the back channel. And I just want to say, and again, I am real and authentic. I didn't know what that was until I updated. So now that I see that I have a message, and I do apologize, and I will respond. I always respond, but I didn't want to admit at the time that I didn't know what he was talking about. But hey, I've come clean. So there I am, being real and authentic. So the morning brief, what is happening in your world? We have some listeners on, and I want to welcome you all today. I'm just going through the names here to see real quick and I see some familiar names and some amazing people from really around the world. So welcome to today's Wisdom Chat. I feel so honored that you are with me here today. And again, I want to encourage you to come up on the stage and either share what is happening in your world, or what is something that you love to do in business? Do you like to be creative? And again, is there a special app that you love? Welcome to the stage. I encourage you to come up to the stage. I promise we are going to have an amazing conversation. Let's chat. Excuse me. So in the Northeast here today, it is going to be very, very hot. And I know Julie had mentioned she was in the UK. They are having a tremendous heat wave in the UK, and we are staying well hydrated, of course. And I have a nice ceiling fan above me, which is really nice. My office happens to be in the bottom part of my home, so it's a lot cooler down here. And we actually have 3 separate living areas within our house. So there's only one section of the house where my husband and I are, where we have the AC on. So we're obviously trying to conserve as much as possible, but please be aware if you are out and about, especially if the heat is very excessive in your area, you do need to hydrate well. Don't overdo it. And, keep cool. That is the main thing. And check on your neighbors. Maybe you have, elderly neighbors or family friends around you. Just check in with them and see how they're doing. So I'm just going to give it another minute or so. And I want to invite you to come up on the stage. I would love to have that chat with you and welcome you to come to the stage, and let's have an amazing conversation. I will be back on Wisdom. Let me get my little cheat sheet here. on Friday at 9 a.m. And I wrote down, I write down my ideas ahead of time, but sometimes that does change. I want to chat about passive income and evergreen products. Hey, does anybody out there right now have an evergreen product, and how? I can't wait to get into that conversation. And hey, we can start it right now if we want to. Do you have any evergreen products? And what has it done for your business? I'm actually working on a few evergreen products. I'm always working on something. And that is the amazing beauty of having your own business. I love being my own boss, love sharing what I'm passionate about. This has been such an amazing time here this morning. And I want to thank Julie again for coming up on stage. If you enjoyed today's conversation, if you have any questions about business, maybe it's an app, maybe you have a project that you need help with, please feel free to reach out. I do offer free 30-minute consultations. Send me a message through this back channel. There's a message part here, and I promise I will reply to you within a very reasonable amount of time. I want to thank you all for being here today. And remember, what is happening in your world is important to you. My name is Janis Malillo, and I am the host of Two Sisters, Truly Your VA podcast, and stories that inspire us. And if you have a story, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now, and we'll see you on Friday. Have a great day. Hey, everyone. That was an amazing conversation on wisdom, and I want to thank Julie again for coming up on the stage. Oh, gosh, blessed and grateful. My name is Janis, aka Digital Diva, Podcast Diva. I love it. Do you love what you do? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.